One of those things. One of those
Yeah, I
things.
think we should have like a great introduction or something.
John has all that stuff. And he doesn't share it. What kind of jerk just doesn't share his toys?
It'd be a
Seriously.
Huey Lewis thing. I'm okay with it.
Oh my goodness. Well, anyways, welcome everybody and good Monday evening. Now I know you have us in the background, you're watching football, and something happened to Aaron Rodgers. And that's about it. And Cubby and I, we talked about it. Like my TV's there. He's actually can watch his TV. I'm so if he's looking off camera, you know what he's doing. But we figured that if we ended up doing something like that where we had the TVs on and we were watching it, we turn into the Peyton brothers, or the Manning brothers rather, and just commentate about the game and forget about DJ stuff. And that might be really boring because yeah, we wouldn't know anything faster than any of you would. So I don't know. And if we're talking, we wouldn't be able to hear what's happening. So
That's true because mine's muted. So
yeah, that would be, and mine would be too. That'd be the way it would have to be because otherwise it get picked up. And
yeah,
yeah, yeah. So anyway, I tonight's show. Hopefully you never get put in the situation of what we're going to be talking about. But we know full well that things happen that we don't plan for. Emergencies happen. And so tonight is going to be all about that kind of idea of recovering from those emergencies. Like, because if something happens at your wedding, if something happens at your event, you can't just go, see ya, I'm out. Like they're going to turn to you. They're going to expect something to happen. And so tonight is going to be about those somethings. So, Cubby, what I want to start with is kind of let's describe some of the situations that have happened to you, and then we'll get into some of the after effects, because I think when some people hear emergencies, they think of emergencies on our end, right?
right.
A speaker dies. I split my pants during the setup, like whatever happens, right? Like they think of things like that, and that's not the direction we're thinking of tonight.
Right.
So share a little bit of some of the stuff that you've had to deal with.
Yeah, I've been doing it a really long time, and so certain situations have happened. Most recently, 2 weeks ago, we had an uncle have an episode, a stroke. We thought it was a stroke. He was low on potassium and dehydrated, but he had stroke-like symptoms. His heart was erratic, going on during the toast. And so I had to move that away. And there's been other situations in my past that between the ceremony and the reception, a father of the bride was having heart palpitations and had to go to the emergency room and wait. I've had a groomsmen jump during a grand intro, jump too high on a bridesmaid back. They went down. The bridesmaid had to go get 16 stitches, missed, so I've had weather-related issues where living in the Midwest, we get tornadoes and actually the sirens went off. Here where I live, everybody kind of runs outside to see if they can see it, but you still have to make proper announcements with people who are kind of nervous, where to go, what to do in extreme situations to make sure that all your guests know and feel safe during those things. So never had a fire, nothing ever caught on fire, so I'm cool with that. But I've had medical situations that have happened. People dancing and slipped on a dance floor, twisted a knee or whatever. So we had to kind of move things off, but you have to keep things positive and keep going. And how do you take that negative and turn it into a positive? Will really help us all. And that's what I think our goal this evening is things that out of our control. What can we do to help it?
And I think as we're talking about these, there's definitely going to be some different tiers of emergencies. And how you might come back from them, or what you might need to do to come back from them, are going to be very different. So, for example, the bridesmaids going down after the groomsmen jumped on her back, that's bad. Don't get me wrong. There's blood and everything else, but I think there would be, she's going to be okay.
Correct.
Right? That deep down, this is not a life or death type of situation. But dad having heart palpitations and having to rush off to the emergency room, might be a little bit more concerning, that, and a little bit more worrisome in that aspect. So let's start talking about the bridesmaid one, and we'll work up to the dad one. So
Sure.
so you were saying this happened during the grand introductions.
Yep.
They're coming in. And of course, for those of you that are not familiar, you're kind of trying to picture the scene here. Imagine you're at a wedding, right? Introductions in some fashions are done. And I've had couples who have kind of tried to up the ante with their wedding party. And whoever has the best introduction, we're giving you $100. Like, I actually had them do that one time. And
Oh,
so
wow.
that takes because I don't know if they wanted things to be viral or what maybe was the reason behind it, but it was the idea of taking it to that next level, taking it up in its idea, in its embellishment, if you will. And so that's what's happening here, right? I don't think there's money on the line, but the idea of making this big type of entrance. Okay. So goes down. You see her go down. Do we see blood right away? What's happening?
So they got up. She did grab her head, but she made her way to the table. The bride and groom were the next ones coming out because it was the best man and the maid of honor. So they were getting, she got up. Didn't knock her out or anything. And then she kind of felt, so she was pinching it as she went forward. Didn't really know. We brought the bride and groom in. And then they went off and cut the cake. I went over to, while they were cutting the cake, made the announcement, cake is being cut on your left. If you have a camera, please join us. Please be courteous to the professionals working. Boom. So I run over to the bridesmaid, like, are you okay? What's going on? And she started, it's just bleeding really, really bad. So we grabbed one of those cloth napkins. Then I sent a bridesmaid to go get some ice from the staff at the bar. And then they went back and looked at it. And they're like, oh, she needs to go to the ER. She left her toast with somebody. So another bridesmaid was able to read it for her while she was there. And then she came back and like 2 hours later, because it was ER after she got stitched up, and it's about 8 or 9. And we made sure she had a plate. And I was like, hey, get her a plate. Let's put it in, put it back, put wrapping over it. And then we just, hey, she's back. And then we danced the night away.
So I don't know which I'm more impressed with. The fact that she came back after that, or the fact that she was able to make it back in time for all that. I mean, the years around us, she would have been there for like 7 or 8 hours.
Yeah, it was, yeah, especially Saturday night. Yeah, you're right. Saturday night, but she made it back. It was about 8:30 by the time she made it back, and grand intro was at 5:30. So she had a good 2.5 hours, 3 hours.
So obviously you went and you checked on her, and you helped orchestrate the ice and that kind of thing. And did you make any suggestions as far as like, hey, do you have your speech written out? Are you comfortable with somebody else reading it? Or was that something that secondary that maybe she thought more of?
No, as actually seeing how she's doing, how we're going to get her there. Who is not essential enough to take her. Her parents were there, thank goodness. Sometimes bridesmaids' parents come and maid of honors, and we did have somebody that was non-essential that could take her. I said, do you have your toast? And so she actually texted it because it was on her phone. So she's able to text it to somebody and got it to us right away. And so that was one thing. I was like, hey, what about your toast? Not trying to know anywhere out there. She wasn't screaming in pain. It was literally, it's along the airline, like it was right here, like around the eyebrow.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like a boxer's cut, like when they get headbutt or whatever.
Okay.
But just, it was wide enough that it needed stitches. So she wasn't scarred like a boxer. And so, I just, hey, if you got a toast, if you just email it to or text it to the bridesmaids, we'll make sure it gets taken care of.
So how do you, as a professional then, right? She's gone off. You're going to do that. You're going to do that toast. You're going to do that speech at some point. How does that come about? Like, what do you remember what you said, or
yeah,
we didn't want to piece.
We weren't trying to like throw the best man underneath the bus, because he went a little high in the shoulder. So, hey, and for those who didn't notice, we had a little episode during the grand intro. We sent her off. She's getting stitched up. She's going to be beautiful. Hopefully she'll be back. She didn't make it back be here later this evening. But in her place, we have her toast by bridesmaid Susie. and she just read it as though it was hers.
Okay. Are there any other things that you had to do throughout the night? Because that, like I said, that's not as much of a mood killer as you could have with some other events. But
Right, it's more of like oh wow, did not see that one coming, but not like
yeah.
a senior member going down with a heart attack, or a dad, or when we actually had to call the ERs and stuff like that. Is something we called an ambulance on the most recent one. So yeah, there wasn't as much. People saw it, realized it was happening, and then we just kind of gave updates that she's doing great. So we're going to get a few stitches, and she'll hopefully be back here with us this evening. And she showed up at 8:30, and we brought her out on the dance floor, and she danced the night away.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And it's always nice when you can kind of have that high moment, because I'm sure that also, I mean, I would think that would bring the party back to another level. Like, not that people are going to be overly concerned, but it's like, here comes this bridesmaids who is out of commission, who is out for, a good chunk of the reception. We got her some food, and here she's out on the floor. Like, if she can come out of the floor after having gotten all these stitches, surely they can get their butt out on the floor.
Yes. And it did, like you said, it took it to a whole nother, I would say like a whole nother level, but it did spark. It was cool to have her back. Everybody's glad to see her back and doing great and fine. And she's got a war story to tell,
And so do you.
Yes. So do I.
So if somebody were to find themselves in that situation, is there anything that you would kind of like, hindsight's always 20/20, right? Is there anything that you could foresee different from what you did to maybe what you could have done?
No. I do know when I do grand intros, I'm like, hey, if you got a guy jumping on a girl's back, don't get too high in the shoulders, just to where you push her downwards. It's all great and fun, but just keep it around the waist. Don't go too high in the shoulders, and maybe practice, because in the whole anxiety thing and getting nervous, he just leaped, man. He just got too high in the shoulders, and she went forward face first.
So there you go. So something to think about is just prepping your wedding parties of your entrances, and even maybe just asking. Like, sometimes you see them. Like, when I'm lining up, one of the hardest times that I have is getting them lined up, because they're too busy practicing what they're going to do to come in, that they don't listen to me. And then I almost have to yell at them, in my teacher voice. And then sometimes that works, and sometimes they were the goof off, so they didn't listen anyway. But yeah, so walking through them or getting an idea of what they're going to do can help. You don't want to take away some of that spontaneity, but you do want to help them be be elevated without being reckless. So
yeah. And then, like I said, I also tell them like where to go, where the photographer wants them to do their move at, not right out the doors. Maybe is it 3 feet in, is it whatever, maybe wait till the dance floor. Every venue is different, but like you said, as you're lining up your wedding party, just be careful, be safe, don't get too high in the shoulders, don't, stuff like that. So lately, I don't know, but lately I've been doing groomsmen all in one and bridesmaids all as like a group.
yeah,
I don't know if that's trending now, but I had to say for like the last 3 or 4, it was like all the groomsmen and then all the bridesmaids.
I had my first one of those this past weekend, and I've got another one coming up in a couple weeks. And it was kind of funny because our area is always behind by like a couple months, it feels like. And I was seeing people talking about this on some of the different Facebook groups, and they're like, yeah, we're not really doing introductions anymore. It's more just a big group of them all coming in, and you might do it where you say, oh, Bobby's groomsmen, and that's it. Or it might be Bobby's groomsmen, John, Joe, Fred, and George, and that's it. But they all come in together. I don't know. I like it and I don't like it.
I always tell my brides and grooms, because it has been trending here lately. Like I said, I've been doing a lot more this season than I have in a lot of years. Does your wedding party know each other? Is it going to be awkward if they do that? Trying to figure out something that's been done 1,000 times, where they throw the bouquet and he catches it, and we've all seen it, right? Chug a beer, blah blah blah, do the fish, and and then they're like, yeah, we've seen 1,000 times every reception, it's 1,000 times. So then they like the idea of like all the groomsmen to their song, and it could be a whole different song. It could be maybe the groomsmen into rock music, and you come into Back in Black or Thunderstruck or something, and the bridesmaids want Starships by Nicki Minaj. So now you can do 2 different kind of, and then they can just do their thing, right? And so I don't think it's that bad. It's kind of fun. I mean, it's different. Like I said, I always tell people we all have to do the same thing. We can just do it differently. We just have to cut a cake, but how we cut it, differently. So the groups is kind of fun, I think.
Yeah. And it does end some credence. And I think what will end up happening is the more that this becomes commonplace, I think what will end up happening is you will see, the bouquet toss, the beer chug, right? But it'll be a group version of it, and it might be new moves, right? I'm not saying it'll be the same moves, but it'll be that mentality, right? Of like, okay, we're going to come in and we're going to do something, but now it's our guys. And so we're going to do it, we're all going to do this thing. And I'm sure that, a lot of the guys will get into chug, taking the beer and slam it together, like in the middle type of thing. And then chugging it or something. But, yeah, I think it could be fun. I will say the ones that the guys didn't do anything at this. It was just this past weekend when I did it. The guys really didn't do anything. They just kind of came in. The girls all had seltzers, and they were the ones who like got to the middle, and they all just tipped them up and downed them right there together. So the girls outshined the guys. Shine, whatever.
Right.
The guys. So that was kind of cool to see. But all right. So let's kind of talk that next tier, right? So if you think about some of the emergencies you've had, what would you think would be that next tier? What situation would that one be?
Out of the weather related one where the
Okay.
sirens were off, where the tornado was coming.
You say that, and me in the Northeast who had a thunderstorm coming through, and I was freaking out, and you're like, "Yeah, it was a tornado."
Yeah, you've seen the movie Twister was actually filmed just north of us in Ames, Iowa, where I'm from. But yeah, we're like tornadoes are like huge here. You always get a couple good storms a year. Not to say they always land, but you always get sirens going off, potential stuff like that. And when the siren's going off, that is when you're supposed to take cover. I mean, that's the time that there's a funnel cloud been spotted, and it's either going your direction or it could touch ground or whatever. So when the sirens do go on, it's a little bit more serious than just a regular warning or a watch.
So how does that work, right? You're at the venue, you're playing. I would assume these things are so insanely loud that even it's being heard, or somebody's going to hear it and let you know about it. Is that more what we're seeing?
Yeah. Well, the most recent incident, we were during cocktail hour. And so I was like, ladies and gentlemen, there's a storm approaching. You may hear the sirens. The safest place to go is between the bathrooms, stay away from the windows, go to the center, go to the kitchen. If you feel, necessary, pack into those areas where there's no glass, stay out of the bridal room. And of course, like a lot of people are just going outside looking for it. You're really waiting to see. I'm not lying. Everybody in Iowa, you tell them the tornado's coming, and they will run outside and look for the storm coming. But there was actually one in Pilot Mound, Iowa. It was a church camp, and that was playing that. And we actually literally had to stop the music and go take cover in a shelter because it was like a church camp. So it was like a lot of wooden buildings. And so we actually literally had to stop the music, take cover for 20 minutes, and then get crazy right back up.
So what, I mean, people in that area are used to it.
Yes.
Right. So I assume, like you said, like they go outside to look at it. So what, other than obviously having to stop what you're doing, I assume you stop what you're doing.
That particular time, we still played. I played during the cocktail hour one, the most recent one. I still kept music going, but it was at a super low bed. It was so in the event that the sirens were going louder or it get close, you know what I'm saying? It was so everybody could hear when the sirens went off or whatever. But it was still just wasn't dead air, but it was like a super low enough that it wouldn't drown out the sirens.
So let's focus on this cocktail hour one then. With that situation, so you got word the sirens are going off, right?
Yep.
And you're still playing at that super low level. Is anybody going for cover?
There was some of the, like, people took their kids to more of the center of the room, away from out, because it was a barn.
Right.
Like yeah. And so they brought in some of the people that were doing the yard games, and some of the parents and some of the people went in the hallway. So people get nervous about it, that get super nervous about it. And like I said, there's some that when they hear it coming, they'll actually take cover. But some people with kids, small kids, they went in the hallways, bathrooms, and things of that nature. And then Of course, everybody's got their phones out, looking to see that, watching the weather, watching local TV stations and stuff like, of that nature. So it's not as like back in the 70s when you didn't have phones and you couldn't tell if it was coming, how close it was. So it was nice to, that people that need to feel safe because their kids were nervous or something would go to the kitchen and or bathrooms.
Once things are all clear, because that can also create obviously a delay in the things that you're doing.
Right.
Once that's passed, right? So about how long were you dealing with that situation? You said it was during
25, 25 minutes. So push dinner
Okay.
back by 15.
Okay. So you're coming out of that. I mean, in that aspect, I almost feel like you had to be the person that like ruins the party just by basically passing along news that you had to pass along. But then you get to be the hero because then you can come back and say, okay, we got the all clear. Let's kick this thing off.
Yep.
Right. Like, so is that what you did in that case?
Yeah. I wanted to play Riding the Storm Out by REO Speedwagon, but didn't. But and that funny, and this is a really weird instance that happened that night. We have two colleges, University of Iowa and Iowa State University. Iowa State University are Cyclones. And before every football game, they play the cyclone weather alert. And the bride and groom were Cyclone fans, and they were coming into it that night. So, and I generally, when I play the cyclone weather alert, before I play like the other song that brings them all in, it's just like a tester for all the Iowa State fans. That night and that night only, like, ladies and gentlemen, we just had this weather situation. Tonight's grand intro includes the cyclone weather alert. So if you hear it, don't get nervous. It is literally the cyclone weather alert because it's like, this is a cyclone weather alert, type of thing. And so I had to ruin the fun of the grand intro a little bit, be a buzzkill because I didn't want people to freak out that the sirens were going off again. So in that particular instance, I had to tell them, but other times I don't tell them when it's a cyclone weather alert. But it was fun.
And then I could just imagine like they missed what you said or you didn't say, so they start and they hear that everybody grabs for their phones like, that's louder than normal, what the.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. So very similar to the first situation. The next question I'm going to ask you is, when you think back on that situation, you think about how that was handled, is there anything that you would have done? I mean, not that you could have done differently, but is there anything that you would pass along for somebody who has to deal with a weather situation? Like how would be the best to go about that?
Be calm, be informative, and do not overreact. Don't overreact or cause any additional problems. Just say, ladies and gentlemen, just aware of a weather situation that may be arising. The sirens are going off. If you feel the need to take cover, these are the places that you need to take cover at. We will keep you updated with any more weather related activities that may be happening, and then if it, if it got closer, we knew it was on the ground and it was, like a half a mile away, then I'd make the announcement, ladies and gentlemen, it's 3/4 of a mile away. Please take cover, type of a thing. And we would have escalated it, but don't escalate it too soon. You just want to make sure it's informative, short, and you're not freaking people out.
So here's a hypothetical that I'm going to throw at you, because I could see some people listening to this and just in my head, I can see the different thoughts that are going on. You have a couple who says, we're not stopping the party. We're not putting this on hold. It's my wedding and it's happening. What line do you toe there as the person who's leading said party?
All the instructions I like to go through is through the venue. So then they make those calls. Okay. And it was a venue's call to make the announcement. It's a venue's call to, hold back dinner, till everything was calmed down, that we knew that we were going to take cover. So we didn't have everything out and things. It was still in the warmer trays and all that stuff. So I'm like, man, you have to take over the venue. All I'm doing is making announcements. You see what I'm saying? So then everything lies on the venue and it doesn't really lie on me.
Nice. Pass the buck. Good deal.
Is that what you done? I don't know. I'd be like, look, I said, I think we should, reconsider it. I think we should, definitely. I'm at all contacts with the venue. What do you think we should do? Make the announcement. Postpone dinner 15 minutes. And generally, I don't know. I've never had a couple like that. I mean, I think if it's a weather situation, I mean, they hadn't celebrated enough, which is a fancy word for drinking, so they weren't unreasonable. I mean, But somebody could possibly say that at 9 o'clock at night, going, wow, let's just keep going, you know?
Yeah. Well, and I think we all think about the hypothetical bride or groom that's out there that could go down that particular path. I do feel that it's possible, but I think in the same respect, you're working with a team, right? It's you, it's the venue, it's everything else. And basically keeping that solid head. Like, listen, I want to keep this party going the same as anybody else, but ideally we need to make sure that everybody's safe. And so the last thing that you want to be known for is the wedding that we didn't do what we should have done and something happened. And so let's err on the side of caution. We'll wait this thing out. And then once it's done, we'll party it up and, make up the time or whatever might be the case. And I think if you go about it with that right mentality, and again, you've got to kill them with kindness, right? You can't be like holier than thou, like, no, I will not do what you're wanting, but rather try and reason with them. I think again, if it's early enough where the celebrations haven't taken over, you're gonna have better luck. But in seriousness, I think that's the path that you need to go. And if they have been celebrating, try and make sure there's somebody with a level head to help that.
A mom or dad. And I think it also begins, Dan, in the whole process, like when you're meeting with them, if you're that resource, like if you're helping them plan their day and who they're walking down the aisle for, second, third, what song for that, and things of that nature, and you are that resource, they're going to lean on you for your, what do you think we should do, Cubbie? Or Dan, and what do you think, you've gave us all this great knowledge of my day and my timeline, and you've made everything perfect. What do you think we should do? A lot of that just comes back on me, even not in dire medical situations. It's just like, we're in that weird time of the night where it's like golden hour for photos and first dance. What do you think we should do? So if you're that resource for that couple and always be their resource, then I think when you have to make a tough call, they'll be in your corner and totally get if it's a reasonable request.
And I think you hit on it right there. If you're continually being the go-to person for things, that's going to help when you have to step out, when you have to make those decisions that you already have a level head and they know you're going to have a level head. And this, again, this is more off topic here, but that goes into how you handle planning. I was looking in one of the Facebook groups earlier this week, and the DJ, I don't remember who it was, but was talking about how he was like a couple days before the wedding and didn't have information from them.
Yeah.
Like no, let me phrase it. The bride, I think it was a bride, had not filled out his planning portal or planning information that he had online. Now, granted, I've had that, right? I've had couples that have not filled it out. But the difference was we met and went over as much as we possibly could. And then there was stuff that they needed to get back to me on. In this particular message, it sounded like this DJ shows up with what he gets from his planner and does the wedding with that document filled out, never having gone over it, like with the couple in a face-to-face or over a Zoom or phone. And I may be wrong, right? If that DJ happens to be paying attention to our show and he's knows exactly that I'm talking about him, maybe he clears that up. But I didn't see any reference to that. It did sound like it was the other way, where just takes that and shows up. And I cannot stress this enough. That is not a great way to show that you are a resource for your couples to go to. That is not putting in what you need to do to create that connection. And that's what's going to make a better event for you, really, is having those connections. So,
oh yeah, it's
and if they don't care, I don't care. I get it, Brian. I get it, right? If they don't care about enough to fill it out, you're not going to care. But I think in some aspects there's got to be a line where you're trying to make yourself be a better, I don't want to say better connection, but you want to make that better tie to help things get to that next level.
My give a shit factor is too huge. I can't, I care too much, and I meet with my couples and I was like, hey, look, and I tell them, look, the Sunday before your reception, we're tying everything together. And then once you sign off, I'll make my scripts and my playlist. And I do. And there's been a few times that I send it out on Sunday afternoon while I'm watching football and I haven't heard back from Monday. So I'll text them like, hey, I sent that loose timeline for your approval. Can you take a minute and look at it? And you know what? I get it back. I can start working. And I got that process in. And I might have shared this earlier. And if I did, I apologize. When my mom was last year, when my mom was in the hospital and she's going through some major health problems, I didn't know what my rest of my week was going to look at. So if I got all my stuff done on Monday, Tuesday, I can memorize names. I've got all my playlists made. I've made everything so that when Saturday comes around, I'm not crunching or trying to figure stuff out. And I don't like to leave anything out for interpretation. Like that poor guy that said he's waiting for his planning forms, like he never met to him. That planning form is for me just keeps him busy. When I meet with him, I literally go over the details. But my planning form is just to keep him busy during that time. I'm off my back till I meet with him 4 to 6 weeks prior to my reception and go over every detail. Seriously, I write everything out. It's.
See, and I treat it a little bit differently. Like, we will go over that form from beginning to end. I'm starting to tweak my reminder emails a little bit to make it a little bit more prepared to kind of give them that heads up to go in and take care of it, so that when we're at that meeting and there's a hole in the planner, it's not like, all right, now let's spend the next 10 minutes talking about what you're going to use for that father-daughter dance, right? Here's a link to here's a link to a Spotify playlist that you can go through and get some ideas and figure that out, so that when we do our meeting, you already know, and we can talk about maybe ways to make it more memorable rather than just picking a darn song.
So when I confirm the meeting time and the date and the place and all that stuff, I'll go into their planners and see what they have done. I'm like, hey, no, you haven't touched your planners. If you could take a minute and fill those out for me, that way you're more prepared in the meeting and it will go shorter. Like, oh, okay. They know they got busted. I went and checked their homework, but I do remind them. And then they're like, hey, we're ready to meet. I'm like, are you? Because I looked at your planners and not one thing is filled out, so, shucks, let me go fill it out. So I will literally go and say, as a reminder, here's your login, here's your password, in case you lost it. But the more you have done, the quicker the meeting can be, and because I get chatty and we talk about everything. So
yeah. All right, so let's go back to our emergency situation.
Yeah, sorry, we can circling back around.
It's all right. It's you know what? It's perfectly fine. I mean, we've got like 45 minutes to an hour to fill. We've got to do it somehow.
Yes,
we can't talk topic the whole night, or people will get bored. Anyway, by the way, before we get to that next one, I looked back at the chat. I was missing the chat. So MXP, I don't know who you are, sir, as far as your name, but what I was noticing, the mention was I was DJing at an event next on the beach.
Oh.
This is on April 11th of 2011, the Japan tsunami. So they were DJing an event next on the beach and had to evacuate. The bride complained to the venue that she wanted to continue, and the police made her leave. So sometimes you do have to maybe pull in some extra help in that case, and obviously it's a good thing that they had that. So
wow, yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, that would be a definite. You're not recovering from that emergency that night.
Nope, you're not
that's done. If you're evacuating, that party's over. But that's something to think about, though. I know we were kind of joking with that, but if you have that situation, I think it's important to. We're not in control of Mother Nature, right? We don't have any control over a storm that might happen or something that interrupts an event. And I think there's some times where we need to be business people. And I think there's some times where we need to be human beings. And I think when you have a situation of a storm situation, and I'm talking something severe, it's something, tornado that actually caused you to take cover and maybe end it for that night, or, the Japan tsunami that MXP was talking about, something that is causing that event to end that night. I think it's important for you as the human being to kind of put yourself in that couple's shoes. This day that they've been planning, that they've been wanting and everything else just got stopped. And they may want to come back and create a celebration, a follow-up celebration or something like that. And I think it could be in your best interest to try and help with that. I'm not saying you have to do it for free. I'm not saying you have to give up a Saturday during busy season. But you might be able to help them come up with a way that they can celebrate in a year anniversary or something like that. That might be on an off night. And, you find a way to work something out with them where it's a win-win for everybody. Something to consider. Something to consider. Because again, I'm a big believer in karma in that aspect. And I think what goes around comes around. And I'm not saying that you're being mean if you say no to that, but I'm saying I think you'd see a lot more rewards on the other side. So, okay. All right. So let's talk. What is that next tier? Is this dad palpitation?
I think, yeah. Dad, between the ceremony, he his heart was going. So mom took him. Everybody came on over to the reception. The bride, the groom, you just know her heart was not in it because the father-daughter dance and her dad giving a toast, and mom was with him because he needed somebody there on his behalf, but brothers and sisters and grandpas and grandpas and aunts and uncles still came over. But he knew in that situation. So we were asking for updates, and we say, hey, he's doing great. He's excited. He wants everybody to have a great time. We substituted grandpa for the father-daughter dance on the fly, and we said a prayer for him prior to, and then he never did make it to the reception. They actually kept him over. They kept him. So it didn't go the distance. But I try to make as many memories and keep it as positive, and hey, you're getting updates, and dad's doing great. He's feeling good, but they will be keeping him overnight, so he won't be returning. But he said he wants everybody to dance on behalf of Dan and Bianca. I did the same thing this last wedding. Let me say the same thing, but he wants everybody to have a great time, even though he's not there, and he can't wait to see the pictures. And that kind of livened up the crew a little bit. And like I said, we didn't go the distance because the bride was really anxious, but we didn't end that early either. I think we were supposed to go till 11, and we ended up at 10:30.
So that's half an hour. You might as well say you went the whole time, really.
Yeah. And the law of percentages right after dinner, what happens, a lot of times.
Yeah.
And but like I say, just always keeping it positive and always emphasizing that, Dad's not here, but he can't wait to see the pictures of everybody dancing, don't think, so.
And that's the thing that I think is kind of a good idea to focus on, right? Like, so obviously something drastic happens, and you don't want to take their mind off of it, because you're not going to be able to do that, right? Like unless this person's a stranger to them, their mind is going to be there. But finding a way to honor them, such as the grandfather stepping in, or finding a way to put a positive spin on it of like, listen, this is what they're looking for, and you know what? We're here. So let's make as much of fun as we can. Give those videos, give those pictures as an opportunity to see what's happening, and a way to help. And I think that's key. So the question that I might have with that is, and this one that happened this past weekend, when you see the heart's not in it, do you go extra in any direction? Do you do anything differently or do you go, you know what, this is just, I'm going to keep going at this course because it takes time?
I know I go the distance. Like I said, I do everything I can. I just actually pulled up a voicemail. 1st of August, Grandpa, very special to the bride, was going to give the blessing. He had a heart attack the night before and could not come to the hospital. So as soon as the mom arrived onto the venue side, I'm like, hey, how's Grandpa doing? I heard he had a heart attack. He's doing good. I said, is he up? Is he cognizant? She goes, yeah, he is. And I said, man, I sure wish he could have been here to do that blessing, but I got an idea. I said, will you have Grandpa call my phone and do the blessing? And I transferred it over I sent it to my selfie email, and played it. And so when his dad got up to do the blessing, because his dad was the backup when we found out Grandpa couldn't do it, Grandpa called my phone, and hopefully you guys can hear this.
Give the prayer for the supper.
Can you hear it?
If it worked out good and I don't choke up, you can keep this prayer.
It sounds like the Peanuts
Heavenly
teacher.
Father, we
Oh. So anyway, I had Grandpa call my phone, leave the blessing. I emailed it to myself, ripped it down, threw it in there, ready to go. And Grandpa gave the blessing, and the bride had the biggest tears in her eyes and said, "Oh my gosh, how did you do that?" And I was like, can't tell all my secrets.
So his dad was gonna get up. Like,
Right.
did you like say, "Stop, I gotta interrupt you"?
Yeah. I said, "Hey, good evening, sir." I said, got a little something playing, Grandpa's very special to her. And I said, I got a way that he called my phone. I was able to email it. And we're gonna play it. So get up and say, everybody knows, he's not, blah, blah, blah. And he went in there and he said, "Here's Grandpa's blessing." And then I just played it. It was just perfect. And everybody in the room was like, it was just crazy. It was just like, so always keep that even in your pocket. And that's happened to me a few times before, where a guy's daughter was his bridesmaid and she had the baby the night before. So she called my phone, left a message. I got it coming up in a couple of weeks. The bride, I made him honor, can't make it to the reception. So I've already got it ready to go, her toast. And so if you can make those moments, somebody's doing well, they couldn't make it for whatever reason, whether they got deployed. I did it during COVID and during COVID, have them call, leave your phone at a voice message and then play it as a surprise. And I swear to gosh, you'll get the best reviews in the world. And the responses that you get from responsible is amazing. And it's pretty cool.
That's one of the things I asked that question. I've always asked that question. Not always. For a while now, I've asked that question of like, "Hey, is there anybody that's not going to be here that you really would be here?" And my couples just don't seem to understand, because 9 times out of 10, I get somebody that's passed. They think I'm asking that, and it's like, no, what I'm asking. But I don't want to go into too many details because I don't want to ruin
the
right surprise for them. So I haven't taken that. I haven't had anybody that's taken me up on that from that standpoint. Actually, I take it back. I did have a grandmother one time, and that was a very difficult situation because grandma was not exactly all with it, and her like people, like she was in a nursing home, and the people had to really like walk her through. Okay, you're going to talk to the daughter now. Let's leave this voicemail, and like I could even hear like it, as my voicemail clicked in. Okay, now we're gonna go. And fortunately, I think it was like that first time. It took 2 calls, but the first time she actually left a message, it was good. It worked. It was solid. But that's been a while now. So.
And mine's just been in emergency instances. The daughter having the baby the night before, grandpa having the stroke before. This one is just meeting with my bride and groom. She said, "Well, yeah, my maid of honor lives in South Carolina, and she's not gonna be able to make it because she's due like the week before my wedding." Like, oh man, that stinks. So then I didn't have her mom's number, so I creeped on her mom on Facebooked her, message her mom, going, "Hey, could you do me a big favor? But you got to keep it a secret. And this is not fake. It's not a scam, And so I was able to get it for the upcoming wedding that I got in a couple of weeks. But yeah, it'll come, and unfortunately, it'll be an emergency situation where if something happens the day before, night before, and you'll have to do some work. And but when it works out, it's a pretty cool thing.
So I can still remember this one particular wedding, and I will say this: I did not recover well from it. So learn from my mistakes. So I don't exactly know what caused grandma to go down. It was grandma was like a great aunt. It was somebody that was older, but not like elderly. So like somewhere in that middle range. And we were playing, and she just went down. And she wasn't on the dance floor. She was kind of like over by the tables. So we weren't really sure if she kind of like tripped or if she, had a little bit and she kind of slipped. What? Don't know. But she went down. And of course she wanted to get right back up, but everybody else was like, "No, you must stay. We're gotta call somebody." And so they like come up to me and they're like, "All right, kill the music." okay. So we killed the music. 20 minutes. So they finally got whoever was going to take care of it. And then I just didn't really know how to recover, because it was like that 20-minute down period. Not that I thought we should just been partying and pretending that it didn't happen, but that 20-minute time period just sucked any energy that we had right out the window. And when it was all said and done, like, I finished up, and in fact, the bride then wanted to go an extra half an hour to kind of make up for the 20 minutes, and I was like, all right. But it just never really happened the way that it should.
He lost the energy was lost. It got sucked out of the room I think it would have stopped the music for 5 minutes once I found out she's medically okay, not unconscious. She was just got a bum leg, and we need to get her on a chair and elevated. And if somebody's going to take her. I would have probably came out with a slow song before I amped it back up, and nothing too hard. Maybe like a Brown Eyed Girl or a Sweet Caroline. That's just nothing like going hard. But I don't know if I would have let it stop for 5 or 20, excuse me. But I probably would have stopped for 5 once I found out she was conscious and things. I think I probably would have slowed it out, and then kind of maybe did some sing-along songs or something that wasn't such bangers, like Yeah by Usher, Get Low or something.
Yeah. There was one I was going to go somewhere, and I just chose not to because that was a little bit poor taste. Okay. So the other situation I had, now this one I felt I kind of did recover from as best I could. So it was a wedding. It was the middle of summer. It was like June, but it was super, super hot in a barn that really had no ventilation. And like everybody kind of was outside, because even though it was hot, it was at least somewhat cooler outside of the barn because there was a little bit of breeze. So I start playing, and nobody's really dancing. It's also like bright sun beating in. Like, it just was not a good situation. So I'm just kind of like playing. I'm like, all right, well, I'll keep playing. Eventually the sun will go down a little bit, and then we'll be good. I know how it works in this particular venue. Well, then I see like people kind of running. I'm like, okay, well, that's unusual, but whatever. And I take, we've talked about my big fan that I bring with me. And I joke with my couples and even the parents that, like, listen, I've got this thing over here. If you get too hot tonight, just come on over. You can hang out with me. I'm perfectly fine with it. And like, oh, that's fine. Yeah, haha, great. Mom, the bride's mom comes up to me. Can we get your fan? Sure. Plug it, give it to him. Find out dad went down.
Ooh.
Dad went down. And what it wasn't feeling well, and then kind of went down. Well, the problem with dad was dad refused to take off a suit jacket in this heat. Dad also does not know that water is the best thing to drink in that situation, and beer was not, and had only been drinking beer for like 2 days.
Ooh.
Like not like drinking where he was drunk, but rather than drinking water in a situation and having a beer or two, all of his drinks were just beer. So he was dehydrated. But as I'm playing there, ambulance comes right in front of the barn, like with the big bay windows or big bay doors, and it just goes. And it's like, oh, now we're in a different level. Like, now this isn't just we're trying to cool down dad, we're like taking him away. And mom stayed. Not the bride, but bride's sister went with dad. My bride's sister was like a doctor as well. And so went off with dad. We got word things were good. We were able to kind of come back, very similar to what you said. Like, listen, the word is dad wants everybody to have a good time. That's what he said. We want to have a good time. That's what we're here to do. And when we get updates, we'll pass them along. And that kind of kept the mood in that middle range. Like, you could tell, like you said, the bride was a little worried, but in the same respect, she knew that was already in an ambulance and knew that her sister was with them. So there was going to be an advocate that knew what they were talking about that was going to make sure everything was okay. The key to a lot of the things that we said tonight is you can't be prepared for every emergency. But when they come about, I think the one thing that you can learn, especially from Cubbie and not for myself, but is to keep that calm, level head about you and not to overreact to any situation. Right? It would have been very easy when the bridesmaid went down and he saw her pinching and we saw blood. We gotta stop. We gotta get her attention right now. Obviously, if she had been knocked unconscious, you may have needed to do that. But taking everything to the level that it is and realizing that eyes are on you and how you react is going to give the audience how to react. It's going to give them the piece. So if you're freaking out, they're going to freak out. So making sure that you are calm as much as you can be, given the situation, I think is good. And trying to make those positive spins as you wait for something good to come about, I think is going to be key also. Anything that you want to add, sir?
No, just honestly, the trainings I've gone through, from Farrell to Walters, the Randy Bartlett's mics, and just anything that you can go and just feel more comfortable, like you said, is amazing. It helped me out a lot. I said all the mentors I've had throughout the years and the education. It just, like I said, it helped prepare me for what's happened.
Definitely. So there's another key, is another way to be prepared is to make sure that you are, taking those MC classes so that you can be prepared. And I don't want to say take improv because you don't want to make it into a humorous situation, but an improv class could be helpful too, because of just the idea of being able to think on your feet.
Yes.
Being able to be prepared for those moments can be key as well. I dropped into the chat, DJNTV.com/chill. That is going to be Hanging with Howie. That's the link that you're going to want to follow. That's coming up at 10 o'clock. So make sure that you're sticking around for that. You'll follow that link. You'll hop in the room, keep your camera off, keep your mic off. Watch everybody that's the guys and girls that are doing that part of the show. And then when they're done, they'll say, all right, we're done recording. You guys can hop on and chat with them and give 2 cents, maybe share some of your emergencies that you've had. There's a couple more that were dropped in the chat that we didn't get to tonight, by all means, but take and run with that. Tomorrow, John's got his video that will drop in the morning. Tomorrow night, I forget what shows are on tomorrow night. I really do. That's my fault. Give me like 30 seconds here, because I always save the emails. At least I think I saved the emails. Watch, I deleted it this time. That's probably what happened. Oh, no, I did save it. Okay. So coming up then on Tuesday night, we do have the Tuesday night music show recording will happen. So again, that's going to be at DJNTV.com. And then on Wednesday, my video drops in the morning. At 9 o'clock will be the replay on YouTube for the Tuesday night music show. And at 10 o'clock will be the replay of Hanging with Howie that's coming up here at 10 o'clock. It's great when you have a cheat sheet.
Yes.
It's all the difference in the world. So I do want to thank everybody for taking time, because I know a lot of you were probably busy, watching us and watching, what was going on with Aaron Rodgers, so I guess it's not Hanging with Howie, it's Hanging with Brian. It's Hanging with Brian S. Red. So I just saw that in the chat. So thank you, Brian. So I don't know what's going on with Howie, but he's not there and Brian's going to step in. So there you go. Still the same link. But yeah, so thank you very much. Next week, John will be back. It'll be the Three Amigos, unless Cubbie's got something going on that I don't know about.
Nope, I'm good.
Good. Then we will see you all next week. Have yourself a wonderful, wonderful time. Bye, everybody.